Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of This Week in the World of Football. This is episode number 343 for May 7th, 2024. I am your host, Randy Snow. On this week's show, the CFL Draft and the Canadian Football Hall of Fame's class of 2024 were announced. The Arena Football League marches forward despite more bumps in the road. And in Gridiron Grave news, the body of Knute Rockne has been moved to a cemetery on the campus of Notre Dame. But I'm not here all by myself. Across the table from me, as always, is my son Adam.
I thought you were so connected in the football world that we'd see you on that roast of Tom Brady the other night.
I have not watched it, but I'm up for hearing people badmouth Tom Brady for an hour or two, so I just may have to check it out.
I might have to
sometime
say.
in the future.
We'll talk about it later, maybe a little bit. But yeah, I'd be curious. I haven't watched it either, so
Not a fan of Tom Brady, so yeah, if I can see a bunch of people just making fun of him and really getting under his skin, I might like
it's
that.
not that I wouldn't wanted to watch it. I didn't know it was a thing. I
Yeah.
literally didn't know it was a thing till like my buddy in Arizona texted me, and another friend was like, "You guys watch this yet? Are you guys watching it?" Because I guess it was live.
Yeah.
So just missed it.
Yeah, I didn't know
I had
about
no
it
idea
either
it was a real thing happening.
until it was happening or just after it
So I've
happened.
seen a few clips. So I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about that later. I don't know.
Okay.
Or maybe that's it. That's all we need to do to talk about the
Yeah,
Tom Brady
sure.
roast. We did not watch it.
Yeah, the less Tom Brady on the show, the better. All right, we come to you
Is
each
that our new
week.
slogan? Because I like that.
The less Tom Brady, the better.
I'll put it on the picture,
Okay.
the thumbnail.
With a little circle with a slash across
There
it.
you go.
No Tom
All right, I'll
Brady.
add it. All right.
All right, we come to you each week from the fabulous World of Football Man Cave, located right here in the center of the football world, Kalamazoo, Michigan. We're here to promote the game of football in all its many forms, past, present, and future. Our goal is to educate, inform, and entertain our listeners with the glorious buffet that is the world of football. All this while keeping a close eye on the rich history of the game. Thanks for checking out our podcast. We'd love to get your feedback on one of our many platforms: Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. So you can simply ask your Alexa device to play the World of Football podcast. We also have timestamps down in the descriptions of both the podcast and many of our YouTube videos, so you can go right to the topics you really want to listen to. You can also find our podcast in its full audio form on our YouTube channel. Just search for the World of Football Kalamazoo or use the handle at the World of Football in the YouTube search bar. You will find many other selected videos on our YouTube channel, like a new video that Adam is going to be putting out each week this Arena Football League season, Arena Football Weekly.
Arena Football League Weekly. We don't want to.
Weekly.
I
Okay.
try not to step on any toes of other shows called Arena Football Week.
Okay.
There's so many shows.
Arena Football League Weekly.
Yep.
With Adam.
Yeah.
He put up his week 1 podcast last week. It got a lot of traction.
Hey, a little bit surprised. For us, that's good. That's
Yes.
one of our better videos.
Yes.
It was definitely, you weren't wanting to do it. You're like, we talk about it on this
got
show.
Too many things going on.
You got too many things going on. Don't even begin. But no, I've wanted to do an arena football thing. With a new season coming out, I was like, you know what? I want to make it a thing. And we're 2 weeks into the season, and I immediately regret picking the Arena Football League to do it. I wish I would have done the UFL instead. A little less chaotic, but we'll get to it, I'm sure.
Yeah, lots of things to talk about, that's for sure.
Yep, so if you're listening to this now, week 2's episode will be up Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. That's kind of what I'm aiming at.
Okay.
We shall see. I think there's plenty of other our friends, over at Arena Fan, I think, do a live. At least they did last Tuesday. They did a week 1 recap. Arena or AFL Fan Zone did one. That was an interesting one. Learned a lot about that. I'll talk about that probably later. But yeah, so stop by the YouTube channel. Check it out. Leave a like, subscribe. We appreciate all the people who kind of jumped on board after that video.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
got a few new people. If you're new to the show, welcome.
Yeah. All right, so let's begin our tour around the world of football. And we start this week with the UFL and Adam.
Oh, yep, that's right. We tricked y'all. You thought we'd start with arena football, but we didn't. All right, so yeah, we're going to go over to a little more stable league in the UFL. I'm not going to lie. I really didn't catch a whole lot this weekend.
No, I didn't
I had the
either.
weekend off. I went to a concert on Thursday, so I was kind of spending the weekend not recovering, but just enjoying not having to work a weekend, and I didn't get to, I spent time with my girlfriend and all that, and not a lot of football because, you got to be a good boyfriend. You got to balance that stuff
Right,
out.
yeah.
She gets enough football during the NFL season. I'm trying to pick my battles. But Saturday, we saw the unbeaten Birmingham Stallions defeat the Memphis Showboats 39-21. The Stallions remain undefeated and become the first team to clinch a playoff spot, which is also it's a spot in their USFL Conference Championship game. So that's it. You clinch the spot. It's the USFL Championship game for that one. So the Stallions will wait on. Is it going to be the Michigan Panthers? It's looking like it. If the Panthers keep winning, we'll talk about them later. But thoughts on Birmingham, clinching this spot 6 weeks into the 10-week season?
Yeah, well, when you go 6-0 in a 10-game season and nobody else is undefeated, then yeah, you're probably going to clinch a playoff spot, and they did.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I had to double take when I saw that graphic. I was like, really?
Already? Yeah.
Already?
I thought that was.
But it makes sense. Yeah, a 10-week season. You're 6-0, and you're clearly the best team out of everybody. So I mean,
Right.
the Stallions deserve it. And then now it's a question of who can hang with the Stallions. And there's not a lot of teams.
No.
But we'll get there. All right. Then also on Saturday, the St. Louis Battlehawks defeated the Houston Roughnecks 22-8. I didn't catch any of this game. Did you catch any of this?
No, I didn't see much of that either. The only one I watched was the next game.
Okay, well, we'll get to the next one. So, but I do want to say the Battlehawks seems like they've kind of turned things around. They started off, with that big loss in Detroit, and since then they've won 5 straight. So the Battlehawks are a team to watch out for. The Roughnecks, I do feel a little bad for, but next week's another week, and hopefully they can turn things around. On Sunday, the Michigan Panthers defeated the XFL champion Arlington Renegades 28-27. This was a back and forth game, it looked like.
Yeah, it was.
I kind of tuned in and out. I saw, the Panthers were up 10-3. Good for them. And then at one point I saw they were down. And then you texted me because I was driving around doing a bunch of, errands,
right,
that they won on a last-second field goal again thanks to Jake Bates.
Yeah, for the most part, I think Arlington had the lead for most of the second half. And but it was close. It was kind of like back and forth, but they held the lead for most of the second half.
And it's turning into a
came down to a last second field goal.
And it's turning into a narrative now that Arlington is finding new ways to lose.
Yeah,
because now they are 0-6.
Yeah, the announcers kept saying, "Oh, they're going to win their first game. First game of the season. Get." And
then Jake Bates said, "Hold my beer."
Yeah, really, because I think not St. Louis, Arlington. I think they kicked a field goal with under a minute to go, but Michigan got a great return, set them up. And a few plays later, they're kicking a walk-off field goal from, I don't know, it's only
it was like 42 yards.
42 yards. Yeah, that's nothing.
But Jake Bates hit 5 field goals during the game. He was 5 for 5, so he nailed everything.
Yep.
So he's money in Ford Field, which. Detroit Lions. If he's money at Ford Field, I think you're going to need this guy.
Are you watching? Are you paying attention?
He hit from 29 yards out. He hit from 42. He hit from 43. He hit from 49. And he yet again hit another one from beyond 60. He hit a 60-yard field goal in this game.
Yeah, that was at the end of the first half.
Unbelievable. Yeah, to close the first half. Yep. Jake Bates has been the story, I think, in the UFL.
Oh, yeah.
Between him, A.J. McCarron, the quarterback for the Battlehawks, and I think Birmingham's quarterback, Martinez. I think those are the 3 big names, I think, so far that have come out of the UFL this season. All right, anything else about the Panthers Renegades game?
No, it was a fun game to watch, and I'm glad Michigan won. But I just knew in the closing seconds, it's like, oh, you left too much time on the clock for Michigan to get it. And then they got that big return,
especially with Jake Bates' leg. He kicked a 64-yard, so with the kind of range they can get into.
Right.
And even debating a 70-yarder, I'm sure has got to be on the.
Sure.
If it's a game ender, 70 yards. Let's do it.
Yep.
Let's give it a shot. That's on the table. So for Michigan, that's a heck of a asset to have at that point in the game where it's like, look, we just need to at least get to this point. Anything else is gravy, and Bates will probably nail it. And guess what? He does. All right. And then on Sunday, it was the return of the beer snake. This is the big story from this game. A fan chugging from that beer snake. It took me a minute to realize what was happening. I was like, oh, okay, I get it. You want to chug from the
why didn't we ever
mighty
see that
beer
before?
snake.
Now, I haven't seen that in the 2 or 3 years.
Now people are going to be wanting to do it all the. Yeah, if it gets up to your section and you got a beer, heck yeah, you want to chug from that beer
Put
snake.
Your full beer in there and you chug it.
Yeah, and then you add it to the pot. I think that's a great tradition. They're building a great tradition over there in DC. We got to get out to a game one of these years. I would love to. Maybe that's what we do next year. I would love to do that.
As long as they post the picture for Alcoholics Anonymous. anonymous on the bottom of the screen while they're showing
Would
that.
you get a ticket? Okay, if we went out to DC, because we have a buddy who lives out in DC, I would totally go to a game. Would you get us tickets, or would you sit in that section with the beer snake?
No.
Randy.
I'm there for the football,
Randy.
not the beer.
I'm there for the
I'm
beer
sorry.
snake. You go for the beer snake. Come on.
I can see it from a distance. I
You're
don't need
so
to be
you
in
always
that
do this.
section.
Guess what? If I got us
I hate
tickets,
the end zone. I hate
that's
sitting
fair.
in
I
the
do
end
hate.
zone.
I hate sitting in the end zone too. That's the only bad thing. I would love to be there to be a part of the beer snake though.
You can walk your cup over there.
Maybe I'll buy an extra ticket just to have it in that section, just so I
Please.
can go over there. See, the guy's gonna check your ticket at the bottom of the thing. I mean, you can't go over here. You're not in the beer snake section. I can be like, yes, I am. But anyway, there was an actual football game that got played, not just a bunch of drunks getting together and stacking a bunch of cups. The DC Defenders continue their great home streak. I think they lost the last one against the Battlehawks, but they're pretty much 95% at home. They win. The Defenders defeated the San Antonio Brahmas 18-12. Keeping the Defenders, alive for the postseason.
Yeah, I think they're like undefeated at home the last 2 seasons.
I think they lost to the
I saw that.
Battlehawks last week. I think the Battlehawks finally.
Was that on the road?
I thought that was in
I'm
DC.
not sure.
But
Sure.
I'm sure we talked about it. Anyway, here's your UFL standings as we move forward. In the XFL conference, the St. Louis Battlehawks we were just talking about are at 5-1. That's 5 straight games since that first loss against the Michigan Panthers.
Yep.
And if you ask this storyteller, what a great story that would be to have the Battlehawks and Panthers show up in the championship game and see if the Battlehawks can get revenge on the Panthers. I'm just saying. The San Antonio Brahmas in second place with a 4-2 record, followed by the 3-3 DC Defenders, while the 0-6 Arlington Renegades sit there at the bottom. The defending XFL champions. It's going to be tough for them. I mean, unless there's a massive collapse between San Antonio and DC, I don't see Arlington, able to go back to try to at least
not this year
reclaim the XFL conference. In the USFL conference, it's the 6-0 Birmingham Stallions right there at the top, followed by the 4-2 Michigan Panthers, who I would assume if they can at least win and one of their next 2 teams lose, I mean, the Panthers should lock up a playoff spot as well. The Memphis Showboats at 1-5 and the Houston Roughnecks at 1-5. All right, without further ado, we are now going to move over to the Arena Football League, and Randy's going to lead us through another turbulent week there in the league. It's week 2.
Yeah, week 2. It started out on Thursday night with the Albany Firebirds improving to 2-0 on the season with a win over the Nashville Cats 51-41. Wide receiver Darius Prine, had 5 touchdown catches in that game.
Is that his last name? I thought it was something else. Is
it Prince?
Prince. That's it.
Okay,
I wrote it wrong.
I wrote down.
I was gonna say, I was like, that doesn't sound right. Darius Prince. He was incredible.
Yeah.
5 touchdowns. I think it was 10 catches for like 140 something yards. I have it written down in my script for the other show. 5 touchdown catches. Unbelievable. This guy's the big name coming out of the Arena League right now. And what a game, too. I mean, you see a 10-point victory for the Firebirds, but this was a pretty close game, at least in the second half. The Cats, put on a tough fight, but the Firebirds were able to kind of come through in the end. But hard to stop a guy. 5 touchdowns in one game. Unbelievable. Yeah. They played on a Thursday night, which was a little odd, but we'll talk about some of the extenuating circumstances around that. What you got?
Let's see. The next game is on Saturday. The Southwest Kansas Storm defeated the Iowa Rampage 34-18. Now, what's interesting is that a few days later, like on Thursday, I think, the Iowa Rampage announced that they were ceasing operations.
Well, they announced that before this game was even played.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Okay. A few days before this game.
Oh, you said after.
No, Iowa said that they were ceasing operations.
Yeah.
And then the very next day, I just brought this up here on my phone. There was a statement by the Southwest Kansas Storm, and
you got to put on his different readers.
I got to switch glasses to read this because it's awfully small. I can't seem to get it to go.
Well, you can zoom it,
But
pinch zoom.
And then the Southwest Kansas Storm Week 2 football game against the Iowa Rampage will be played as scheduled on Saturday, May the 4th at 5 p.m. After today's breaking news that Iowa Rampage ownership folding, a corporative relationship between the Southwest Kansas Storm ownership. God, it's so hard to read this.
Hold on, where are you? I have the same exact picture on my phone. Okay, the Southwest Kansas Storm ownership group and the Arena Football League ownership are allowing this week's game to be played as originally scheduled. The agreement allows the current Iowa Rampage roster to travel to Southwest Kansas for Saturday's game. The Southwest Kansas Storm ownership group is committed to our players, coaching staff, support staff, and fans, and stand steadfast in continuing to provide a great football experience for all involved and have unwavering confidence in our ability to do so. Go Storm.
Yeah, see, what I didn't understand was, the wording there, a cooperative relationship between the Storm and the Arena Football League ownership. So I don't know what that means, but basically, I guess they're saying if somehow they found a travel money for them to travel to do this one game.
Yeah.
I'm assuming. I don't know because this is it's kind of cryptic. That's why I wanted to read it verbatim because I wasn't sure exactly what was going on. But for whatever reason, they said, okay, yeah, we're gonna get you there. We're gonna play this game, and of course, Southwest Kansas wins the game. So now, what does that mean? Is Iowa going to cease operations now, or are they going to continue in the future? We don't know.
I assume
We
they're
don't know at
done.
this
We haven't.
point.
As it's Tuesday right now, almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern time.
Right.
So who knows? As far as I am aware, and I'm kind of trying to keep an eye out, there has been no new release of a full schedule of games because we got a lot. There's a lot of moving parts this week. It's hard to even preview a week 3 because
Yeah, we don't know what's
I
going to
don't
happen.
know. There's teams that were supposed to play other teams, but people keep getting moved around.
Right.
It's hard to say, but we're gonna power through the scores, and we'll get through all the big stories.
Yeah, another game on Saturday last week was the Oregon Black Bears improving to 2-0 with a win over the Georgia Force 63-24. On Sunday, it was the West Texas Desert Hawks improving to 2-0 with a win over the Orlando Predators 30-14. There was no scoring in the entire first quarter of this game.
Yep, it
That
was
is
0-0.
for an arena football game, that is so unusual.
You know what's also unusual? Having the score be 6-0 going into
That's
halftime.
true. That's
So
true.
they clearly something happened in the second half because there was finally some scoring.
Right.
But it's still just
That's what arena football is
bizarre.
all about. They're high-scoring games. Everybody's scoring at least 40, 50 points in
Defense
the
is
game.
not allowed. What is
No.
happening here?
No. And then a couple other games on Sunday. The Billings Outlaws also improved to 2-0 with a win over the Washington Wolfpack 49-12.
Did you see pictures from this game?
I don't know if I did or not.
So I kind of dug what the Wolfpack are doing. They kind of did up their field. It was very unique. You know, they had the arena logo in the middle of the field, but then they did like it. I won't say it looked haphazard, but there's a big wolf logo kind of behind that.
Behind the
and
AFL logo.
Behind the AFL logo, but it was like encompassing much of the middle of the field. That was kind of cool. I like the end zones. They had the proper nets. And the Wolfpack look. I love their logo. Their uniforms, I don't know, a little wishy-washy. Their helmets are interesting. I like their helmets quite a bit. It's unique. But it does stink to see them get blown out like they did. Billings has put together a good team. We'll talk about the Billings Outlaws here in a little bit. But Washington, though, is a team I've kind of been secretly also kind of pulling for just because I kind of dig the vibe they've been putting out there.
And finally on Sunday, it was the Minnesota Myth defeating the Philadelphia Soul, and I'm using Philadelphia Soul with air quotes here,
Well,
47-12.
they actually retained about 80% of their original roster. So this wasn't the
now?
Dallas Falcons this week. It was,
Okay.
they said, supposedly 80% of their roster was brought back. Yeah. So
Okay.
take that for what you will. There's still a lot of,
Okay.
who knows, big question marks around that team.
Right. Now, there was supposed to be a game last night, a Monday night game in the AFL, the Salina Liberty and the Wichita Regulators. That game was postponed to a later date due to weather conditions.
They play
in the
indoors,
area.
Randy. What a silly.
I know, but I think they've been having like tornadoes.
I'm sure, yeah.
and all kinds of
That's
severe
one of those
weather
other
out
circumstances
there.
that we
you
get.
can understand a game being postponed or canceled for something like that. Yes, that's perfectly acceptable. So on bye this past week, it was the Louisiana Voodoo and the Rapid City Marshals. Again,
Why were they put on? That's the big thing. Why were they put on bye in the first place? And now here's where some of the drama begins. As we go through this laundry list of, I won't say shenanigans, but this laundry list of just problem after problem. Because originally, the spin was that the Oregon Black Bears board systems,
internet capabilities,
and
the
their
board.
field, and all that was in question.
Not up to standard.
Not up to standard, so they weren't going to play games there this week. And lo and behold, it's the Voodoo who get put on bye, and the Rapid City Marshals, because I think Rapid City was supposed to go to Oregon. I forget the whole schedule. It's a mess.
Yeah.
So supposedly the Oregon was supposed to be the team that was talking about going to the bye, but then we get the new schedule, and Oregon's hosting the Georgia Force. So there's some fishy there. Who knows what's going on?
Yep.
So the Rapid City Marshals get put on a surprise bye. Then the story comes out about the voodoo. We all knew last week. We talked about the crappy nets, the field, all that. And if you hear the interview, we'll talk about in a little bit from the voodoo head coach about some of that. It's kind of shady why the voodoo were maybe put on bye. But it's just none of these teams were supposed to have byes.
Right.
Now you got the voodoo, who also this week have a game canceled. Their game with Orlando has been canceled. So we don't know the schedule yet. Is Orlando or does the Voodoo want to buy again? 2 buys in a row? What are they doing with this team? It's I don't know. There's a lot happening.
Yeah, and we don't know what to believe.
There's so much out there.
We've heard so many different things. Half the league's going to fold. Just that's one of the main things was that half the league was going to fold. It was a rumor that somebody had put out there. I don't know if I believe that or not, but there's just so many things going on behind the scenes that we don't know about.
Right.
That it's hard to know.
So if you're listening to
who's telling
this
the truth,
and
what to
you've
believe.
heard half of this, if we don't mention it, we're not trying to like hide it. What skin in the game do we got?
We just don't believe it.
It's hard to believe, and it's also like there's just so much back and forth. There's
Right.
contradictory reports, so we don't know. We're kind of waiting for everything to kind of play out, but we are going to go through what we do know.
Yeah, but what we do know is that the NFL Network was supposed to have games broadcast in week 2. They did not. They pulled all those games. And as far as I know, the Thursday night game this week has been pulled from NFL Network. Now, I don't know if this is if they're done for the season.
As far as I'm aware, from what I've been seeing, it's done. That whole deal is they're not doing any arena games.
I don't know.
It is dead. DED dead.
That I've not seen. I'm still holding out hope that we might get a few games on NFL Network as things kind of work themselves out.
I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think it's going to happen. It is done. It is dead.
But another thing is, will the Georgia Force and the Iowa Rampage play their game this week? Are the Rampage done? Are they coming back again? Is there another agreement that's going to keep the team operating for a little while? Was the Rampage owner just trying to get the attention of the league so that he could get some money for travel expenses and whatnot? I don't know.
Hard to say.
I don't know.
Well, I guess I'll mention it. So there's a few interviews we're going to talk about too. We'll probably scatter out through this whole discussion. Arena Insider is a little YouTube channel. They've kind of just started, posting, videos. They did interviews with the Souls kicker last week, whose name I wrote it down. I think. Let's see, former Soul kicker. Connor Mangan, who is now with the San Diego Strike Force of the IFL.
I've got his some stats on him coming up.
Then we have interviews with Billings owner Steven Titus. That's the owner of the Billings Outlaws. And then he just posted today a 2-part interview with Voodoo head coach James Shiver, which I've been in the middle of listening to. I didn't quite finish the second part yet, but I've listened to quite a bit of that. And according to Shiver, going back to I forget the last thing we were talking about. I've been so focused on jumping around. What was the last thing you said?
The last thing I said?
Yeah.
Would the Georgia-Iowa game still be played?
Oh, so they're talking about buying the nets from Iowa if they're going to fold. So he was talking about them trying to purchase the nets because he told us interesting story about their backer boards they found from the old Lafayette Roughnecks of... It was an AF2 team. Who was it? The Lafayette something.
Oh, boy, that's a long time ago. I don't remember the
Yeah, they had a Lafayette AF2 team. He said they found backer boards from that. He said, the nets, they knew the nets were the worst thing they had, but he was confident in their field and they were confident in their boards. It was just a matter of the nets, which, yeah.
Did you see any highlights from the Minnesota Myth home game?
I saw bits and pieces. There was one guy on Twitter who I wanted to at least give credit to because there was somebody at the game who was like live posting, stuff from the game. And
they are using non-regulation nets also.
That was a bit disappointing.
The Minnesota team.
Yeah, so a user on Twitter by the handle LG Brandon, capital B, was like posting all throughout the game. So he had pictures of, some highlights, kind of took some video, kept everybody up to date on the score because here's the other problem. The AFL's got this streaming platform, AFL.live or arenafootball.live.
Mm-hmm.
Can't get any of the games. All the games we want to see. I want to see the Myth games. That's the second week in a row. The Myth has not been on, this platform. Even Vire TV, as good as they've actually been, surprisingly, couldn't, that they didn't have any great games other than I think the Thursday night game, which I couldn't watch live. But so that's the other problem is getting some of these games streamed.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2024. You should be able to have access to most of these things, and
Sure.
it's like living back in 2001 when we were like following the Rampage on their championship track. We didn't see any of those other games. If it wasn't on the TNN once a week, that was the only other arena game you could usually catch.
You could get it online, but it was just like a graphic, and they showed you where the ball was on the field.
Yeah, you did a whole article for Arena Fan about
yeah,
that.
I sat there one night and watched the whole game, just watching this little graphic of a field and watching the ball move around up the field. I think you might have got the radio play-by-play.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but yeah, you could always catch the radio play-by-play on the internet. Yeah, those were ancient days.
Yeah. So
For
it's
sure.
just, I don't know. So that's another issue to throw on top of this pile of arena football, just craziness. I'll let you continue. We got quite a few more things to get through.
Yeah, no, well, you mentioned most of it already. Let's see, the week two games were not on the NFL Network. This week's game between the Voodoo and the Predators were canceled. Will the Georgia Force Iowa Rampage game be played? Desert Hawks lawsuit
Oh, that's
with
right.
the NAL still continues. They have a hearing set for May 21st to decide what's going on.
But last we saw, I think it was yesterday, didn't they say that, yeah, that they are in breach? Because the Desert Hawks came out with a statement.
Well, yeah, and that's the statement said, don't believe everything that you read.
But do you believe the Desert Hawks, though?
I don't know.
I don't know what to believe. And, like, I got the statement right here. I don't want to read the whole thing, but here's a bit where the owner of the West Texas Desert Hawks, Zach Bugg, says, despite any challenges or speculations, I want to assure you that most of the issues discussed online are baseless and not true. Like, I don't know. And then there's you remember the team, the Dodge City Law, that I think played
Yes.
on their Facebook page, supposedly, allegedly, they posted a long thing about why the West Texas is lying, or why, like, there is claim to keep West Texas from playing, even though they might not have signed anything like the owner says. They literally played in that league for a year. So by doing that, that also trumps a few things. There's so much this, and we're not legal experts. We're not any of that. So it's a developing story. I'm sure it's just going to come down to pay us money.
Yeah. I have not heard that the Desert Hawks are not playing this week.
Oh, they're insistent that they're going to.
Yes.
But my question will be, if they do play and they weren't supposed to, and there's legal action, is it going to be much worse? I mean, how much worse can it get for what's going on?
Well,
but it's just, that's another thing to keep your eye out on. It's like, are we going to lose the Desert Hawks, who, by all accounts, are one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the league right now?
And even if the Desert Hawks can't play, why are they not saying anything about the Orlando Predators? Because they played in the NAL also last year.
But did they finish out their 3-year contract? I don't know. Or what about the San Antonio Gunslingers that jumped over to the IFL? I haven't heard anything about them being.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. You already mentioned the Albany Firebirds president, Jeff
I did not mention that.
Levac, talking about the AFL on his sports radio show.
I have not talked about that.
Okay.
So this is just something, Arena Fan kind of shared this, and I thought it was interesting. So I listened to their show. So the Friday morning after the game, team president Jeff Levac has a radio show. Didn't know that. Thought that was interesting. So he was very candid and it seemed to open on his show about, that night before, because there was, people who came out, and there was a picture that floated around of Albany using a different football during the game. Like, that's not the official AFL football, blah, blah, blah. And it turns out, he told the story, he said, we approached the league, and apparently a lot of the owners in the league said, yeah, we want to switch to this other football. It's just a better football for our players. And they were going to wait till the end of the year to make that change, but they were like, well, why not just do it now? So they did, but they had to, I guess, before the game, the Nashville Cats pushed back, and like, that's not the football we were practicing with. And according to the Levac, he said once the Cats practiced with the ball, that quarterback was like, oh no, we're using this ball. So there was a lot of stuff about that, like not having enough balls or whatever, and supposedly that's what's happening. So that you can push aside. He also, on this little broadcast, and it's gotten some traction, just because everybody in the Arena League's looking for something.
Right.
People covering the Arena League just looking for, and we're not like clout looking. We're just trying to figure out what the heck's going on.
Right. We try to deal more in facts
than
rumors, but there's just so much.
There's so much, and we don't want to throw out just blind, just like accusations, because we're not those guys digging for interviews. We're not trying to do that. Which, hey, it's fine if you are. Nothing against you. It's just that's not us. We're here to do the happy, the fun side. It's just
Yeah.
unfortunate that the Arena League right now is in so much turmoil that if we don't cover it, then it's just
Right. Then we're not doing our job.
well. I just say then we're just looked at like you guys are just not fair weather fans. It's just there's other stuff that would go along with that. But anyway, so he talked about how Nashville also talked about not wanting to play Iron Man rules. I don't know if it was for that game. Like the way I kind of interpreted it was that he was telling that in the Myth Cats game in week 1, because the Myth went down to play Nashville. In that game, they were having some issues in the first half and it was kind of sluggish. And then the second half, they were like, well, can we play by indoor rules a little bit? And they said the game went smoother after that for Nashville. So I don't know. I think that's interesting because we're in a spot with this league where they're figuring stuff out on the fly. What works, what doesn't work, which I get. I mean, shoot, we're scheduling games left and right, changing that on the fly. But so I can understand maybe being like, let's try these rules out and see if this works, on the day, which is a little weird, but I get it. You're essentially a relaunch. So it's all, I'm sure some fans will gripe about that. But I just thought that was interesting. And also, they came back on Monday, obviously. And I listened to a little bit of that show where they talked about how that canceled or the Minnesota Myth are having their home game moved because the Minnesota Timberwolves of the NBA is going to have a home playoff game. So their game against the Firebirds is going to get moved to Albany next Monday night.
Yep.
And they mentioned that Albany season ticket holders would get 50% off of purchasing tickets to that game because it's an extra game now. And it's not part of their original season ticket package. So they were giving them a nice deal. I thought that was kind of nice.
Yeah.
But that's not where the interview stopped there. If you want to go check it out, that show, that's it's on Fox Sports Radio. You can find their podcast feed, Levac and Gaz, I believe is how you pronounce it, on Fox Sports Radio. I mean, clearly they cover a lot of Albany region sports, but they were talking a lot of Firebirds. So if you're into that, go check them out.
That's like the first part of the show. So
on the Friday show, it was like that, but they'll say in the description when they talk about that. So it seems like they're pretty on top of it. So go give them a listen. The other interviews that happened, you talked about this. You reposted this. The Billings Outlaws owner, Steven Titus, he's made a round on a couple interviews.
I did listen to that whole interview. That was like 20 minutes.
On the Arena Insider?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes,
Give them
that was
credit.
pretty good. I mean, he sounded pretty credible to me.
Yeah, he was on that show, and then he was also on the Nate Brown Show, which was a sports talk show out of Rapid City. So I think that's interesting. So I listened to the Arena Insider interview. I listened to this interview, and what you can take away from both of those is that he clearly wants Lee Hutton out.
Yes,
that's kind of the big sticking point in a lot of these interviews, except for the Albany guys. They want Lee Hutton out. He also let it out that the AFL refs haven't been paid. That's another thing that's kind of come out, that some of the refs haven't been paid. He's advocating for Jeff Fisher, one of the presidents over there in the Nashville organization, to take over as commissioner. And he even made the statement at one point that the AFL is worse than the CIF was, which is
what an insult.
A big insult. And to be honest, it is. I mean, the CIF had its problems.
Sure.
But on this level, it's so messy. But the one takeaway from that interview, and even the interview with the New Orleans head coach, and we'll move on because I get it. We've kind of been sticking on this topic for a while, and you hate that. But the thing I've taken away from a lot of these is it does seem like there are good owners in this Arena Football League. And is in hindsight, did they maybe add too many teams? Yeah, probably. I think starting with 16, we even talked about that. It was a little ambitious.
Yep.
But it does seem like the Albany ownership group has got it all figured out. That is like your model organization.
Oh, sure, they've been around.
Nashville seems like they got it figured out. Credit to Billings. Billings seems like they've got some of their stuff figured out, and I'm very confident. The way that owner speaks, I'm very confident that they're, knock on wood, that they're one of the more stable organizations in the league. Mm-hmm. And probably the Predators. The Predators have always been a stable, jumping league to league. So they seem pretty stable. So there's at least 4 right there. And who knows what some of these other ones coming out. Some teams don't even have ownership. We didn't even talk about the Philadelphia Soul got ownership, an ownership group this past week. That kind of flew under the radar a little bit. But they got an ownership group finally to buy into them. And the Voodoo supposedly got close to one, but they're saying that the ownership group backed out because of Lee Hutton's involvement in the league, and they want him out. So it's a whole mess.
Wow.
But I'm confident that this season will probably get played out.
I hope so.
How many teams make it to the end of that finish line? I can't tell you.
Yeah.
Could we lose 2, 4, 6, 8? Maybe. I don't know. But I think there's enough stable teams like your Albanys, your Nashvilles,
Right.
that they might make it to the end. The Minnesota thing is a big. I can't believe some of the baffling stuff happening there. Like you would think that a team co-owned by the commissioner would have given them the best of the best,
Right.
and those rebound nets.
Oh yeah, that shocked me when I saw that.
That bummed me out. And we're supposed to go to Minnesota in a couple weeks.
Yep.
Is that game even going to happen now?
I think it will, but who knows?
We're in weird times, but that's my thing about the Arena League. Check out my show on our YouTube channel later. I'm sure I'll go into more about that. Anything else from you before we move on?
No.
All right, then we're going to throw it over to Randy, who's going to talk about the Indoor Football League.
Well, you threw it over to me for the AFL, but you wound up talking about most of it anyway. So
I'm sorry.
Anyway,
you start off the scores, and then we kind of go from there.
Yeah, the IFL went into Week 8 this past week with a slew of games. On Friday, it was the Sioux Falls Storm defeating the Green Bay Blizzard 46-38. Also on Friday, the Jacksonville Sharks defeated the Tulsa Oilers 47-44. On Saturday, the Frisco Fighters defeated the San Antonio Gunslingers 62-57. Saturday also, the Iowa Barnstormers over the Quad City Steamwheelers 55-33. That was a squeaker there. Let's see, one last game on Saturday, the Vegas Nighthawks over the Bay Area Panthers 64-43.
62.
I'm sorry.
62-43 was the final score.
62-43, yes. Sunday, San Diego Strike Force over the Northern Arizona Wranglers 54-45. Force kicker Connor Mangan had two, not one, but two-point drop kicks in the game. And they mentioned how he was a former Philadelphia Soul kicker who was now with the IFL.
Oh yeah, they took a couple shots at the Arena League during that.
Force, yep.
Because I saw that clip. I mean, good for him. I mean, seriously, I get it. He was in a bad situation in Philly. He found a place, and it seems like the Strike Force, might be a decent enough team to, latch on to. So it's cool to see him at least, you know.
I never actually saw in all the arena games we ever went to. Don't think I ever saw a drop kick completed.
Yeah,
but in the Arena Football League back in the day, that was a 4-point play. If you could make a drop kick from somewhere, that was worth 4 points, more than a field goal.
Yeah, and I can't ever remember seeing that happen either.
I think I asked the Rampage kicker once if he ever did one. He said, yeah, he completed one on a road game that I didn't see, so I wasn't sure about that. Anyway, on bye for the IFL, it was the Tucson Sugar Skulls, Massachusetts Pirates, Arizona Rattlers, and the Duke City Gladiators. So now taking a quick look at the IFL standings after 8 weeks. Massachusetts Pirates are at 5-1. The Frisco Fighters at 5-1. Green Bay Blizzard 4-2. Tulsa Oilers 3-3. Quad City Steamwheelers 2-4. And then getting their first win of the season was the Iowa Barnstormers, the Jacksonville Sharks, and the Sioux Falls Storm. They're all now at 1-5 on the season.
Good for them.
Congratulations to them, getting that goose egg off the scoreboard. Let's see. Out in the West, it was the Vegas Nighthawks improving to 6-0. The Bay Area Panthers are at 5-1. They suffered their first loss of the season last week. Northern Arizona Wranglers at 4-2, as well as the San Diego Strike Force 4-2. Arizona Rattlers 3-3. San Antonio Gunslingers 2-4. Tucson Sugar Skulls 1-4, and the lowly Duke City Gladiators at 0-5. Now we go to Adam with AIF scores.
Yep, that's right. American Indoor Football. They had one game this past week. The Harrisburg Stampede defeated the Jersey Bearcats 40-31. Oh wait, this wasn't an actual game. It was another exhibition game as they defeat the AAL2 team 40-31. So a little closer game. Usually they're a little bit more blowouts, but close game there for an exhibition game. And then on bye this week, the Cedar Rapids River Kings, the Corpus Christi Tritons, the Amarillo Venom, and the Columbus Lions.
And you sent me something about the Cedar Rapids River Kings. Was their owner suspended?
There is some drama happening with that. I forget what I sent you. I sent it to you, hoping you read it and put it in the rundown.
I read it and I was confused because I wasn't sure who the guy was, but they said they were turning over the running of the team to somebody else, so I assumed he was the team owner. I don't even remember the charges, but he's being suspended for the rest of the season, I guess, for something that he did. and somebody else is running the team for the rest of the season.
Shocker. Another indoor league with a bunch of problems.
Yeah. Yeah, you expect this in a lot of these other leagues, but not in the Arena Football League.
Well, guess what?
But everybody's suffering.
I
from
always
it
use
this
that
year.
term rinky dink.
Yeah.
The Arena League right now is borderline rinky dink,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yep.
All right, your AIF standings. The Columbus Lions at 4-0. Congratulations to them. The Corpus Christi Tritons also 4-0. Essentially the same standings as last week since no meaningful game was played this week.
Right, yeah, this is exactly the same.
Harrison Stampede at 1-2. The Cedar Rapids River Kings at 0-2. And the Amarillo Venom at 0-4. And now we're going to throw it over to Randy, who's going to talk about the National Arena League.
Yes, week 7 in the NAL. On Saturday, the Omaha Beef defeated the Oklahoma Flying Aces 42-36. And on Sunday, the Colorado Spartans squeaked by the Idaho Horsemen 34-33. On by this week in the NAL were the Carolina Cobras and the Sioux City Bandits. So looking at the standings in the NAL, it's the Omaha Beef at 4-0, Sioux City Bandits 3-1, Carolina Cobras 4-2, Colorado Spartans 2-3, Idaho Horsemen 1-4, and the Oklahoma Flying Aces at 0-4. Adam, tell us what's going on in La Liga de Fútbol Americano Profesional.
Oh, I see you did that just so I wouldn't have to say all
Yeah.
that. But the
Massacre
LFA, the league from down south of the American border, which I love talking about. I mean, I love. I know they started posting, I believe, last week their highlight packages. I just have had no time this weekend to sit down and watch them. But you got a great slew of scores here. You had the Dinos defeat the Mexicans in a close game, 27-24. The Melters absolutely boat raced the Greyhounds, 45-14. The Leaders held off the Raptors, 28-13, and the Bosses defeated the Black Roosters, 17-9 on Cinco de Mayo.
I don't know if Cinco de Mayo means that much in Mexico as it does here in the United States.
I'm not sure. But I know on Cinco de Sete, I went and had tacos for my girlfriend's birthday yesterday. So we celebrated. And on by this week, the Kings. So let's look at your LFA standings as they approach. I believe it's only a 10-week season down there as well.
I think so.
As they approach their championship game. So at 8-0 are the Leaders, followed by the 5-3 Mexicans, the 4-3 Raptors, the 4-4 Dinos and Melters, the 3-4 Bosses, the 3-5 Greyhounds and Black Roosters, and then at 1-7 the Kings. Now we're going to throw it over to Dad, who is going to talk about the Women's Football Alliance.
Yes, this was, I believe, week 2 for the WFA, and there are so many teams in the WFA that what we're doing is we're just spotlighting random scores to try and give everybody, their spotlight here on our show. We had 3 teams last week, or 6 teams last week that we talked about. So here's some more. The Atlanta Rage shut out the Virginia Panthers 27-0. The Houston Energy defeated the Austin Outlaws 34-6, and the St. Louis Slam squeaked by the Minnesota Vixen 41-40. And those are your scores from the WFA.
Now I'd love to talk about the WFA more. I mean,
yeah.
we got some teams up here in Michigan. We got 2 teams.
Yep, I've been to games before,
and I would love for us to go check one out. You know, I think they're both playing each other in the coming weeks.
Are they?
Detroit and Grand Rapids. So I'm not sure where that game will be. Might be worth checking out. My goal is, I was talking to a friend who's, because of the whole Caitlin Clark thing, her big preseason debut the other day. I was talking to my friend, and she was like all about supporting, getting more women's sports recognized. And I had a thought that, you know what, I can't wait for the day that we can branch out and have a women's division of the world of football where we're going to have, some more correspondence and just talk about the Women's Football Alliance. I think that would be absolutely great. He's not even looking at me, ladies and gentlemen. He's off in his own zone.
I'm making a note. Yeah, I've seen a lot of indoor games before. I've taken you to some indoor games. Or not indoor, but women's.
And women. Yeah, we've gone to women's games before.
But we used to have a team here in Kalamazoo called the Southwest Michigan
Jaguars. That became the Mayhem.
Yes. Yeah, they were Jaguars when they were in another city. They came to Kalamazoo, and then they were the Jaguars. But anyway, I saw them play the Fort Wayne Flash one time, and their mascot was a lady dressed up like the Flash.
Nice.
And she was quite the gymnast. She was doing, no-hand somersaults and this and that on the side. I just thought that was a cool promotion for the team.
Yeah.
So we're familiar with women's tackle football. Been to some games. Always enjoyed it. the women out there love hitting each other
Yeah.
and knocking people down. So it's great to watch.
I'm
So
saying, I think we could have a whole lot of fun going to a game, maybe talk to some players,
yeah,
and I mean,
yeah,
especially after we met the owners of the Pittsburgh
passion.
Passion,
Yeah,
that made me especially go, you know what? I think this is a whole, and the rise of women's professional sports, in the United States, I think it's increasing, but I would like to see, even the football side get a little bit more
sure.
recognition. There's a lot in a league that's been around for years, and now they got 60 teams,
Yeah,
3 divisions or whatever.
yep.
Kudos to them
They're
for
all over the
keeping
place.
all that together. And I don't know, I was like just throwing it out there to my friend, like, hey, if you get really into it, there, if you want a podcast about women's football, we could probably, because I feel bad that we're only talking about 3 games, because there's so much to this league that I would love to talk about and get out there to people. It's just, one, we don't have the time. I mean, we could probably do a whole women's show, but again, we'd still have, we know enough, but we aren't like every score, every
Yeah,
highlight,
right.
we're not like that with the league, but we are glad to talk about a few games every week and give them their props and go to a game. So
Yeah, we're just here to bring you the highlights of all these leagues. We're not really going to go in depth on any of them, except
I
for the
mean,
ones that we actually watch or go to.
because I'd hate to lie. I'd hate to be like, oh, I'm such a big fan, and
Right.
I'm.
Yeah, we're going to tell you if we don't watch a game or
What helps is having good highlight packages. And to be honest with you, I don't even know what kind of YouTube presence the Women's Football Alliance has. That's
yeah, I'm
something I've
not
been
sure.
meaning to actually look up.
Yeah,
But if support your local team, if you got one, go check out a game. I can't recommend
sure.
it more enough.
It's still
So
football.
it's still football.
Come on.
And these ladies, like you said, these ladies are great. They're out there playing with a passion.
Hmm.
So go support them.
Yep. All right, let's move on to some NFL news. Finally, what are we in? An hour and a half in, and we're finally going to talk about the NFL now.
I mean, the little old league, the NFL, like they don't get enough press.
That's right. Let's see. One of the stories that I came across is that Jason Kelsey has been added to ESPN's Monday Night Football pregame show. Do you think he'll be any good on that?
Oh
I have
yes.
no
Are you
idea.
kidding me? He was somebody like I thought him and Travis could get a nice, Manning brothers style
The only
broadcast.
thing I know about Jason Kelsey is that he knows how to take off his shirt and chug a beer in the cold.
And you know what? For a pregame show, you tell me every city they go to, he ain't gonna do that. They're just gonna have him in whatever tailgate with his shirt off. I'm willing to bet a good chunk of money that at some point he's going to do that in like every city. But no, I think he's just an interesting personality. Obviously, he's got his New Heights podcast with his brother that's super popular. Uh, you
And now
know,
for our feature, Chug a Beer with Jason. Take him out to the parking
you
lot.
tell me somebody wouldn't do that? Come on now. I think it's great. He's a great personality. This is definitely a move that we all saw coming. If you would have put money on it, you would have lost money because it was very obvious that it was going to happen.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have made any money. So good for him. I think it's a good move by ESPN, despite all these weird changes happening to all these broadcasting people.
Right. Yeah, everybody at NFL Network and ESPN,
You don't. Yeah, you don't even have that.
they're all losing their jobs.
Yeah, you don't even have that story on here, which I guess
No.
looking at, I'm like, oh, that was a story we could have talked about. But
Yeah.
NFL Network cleaning a lot.
Well,
ESPN's been cleaning a
we
lot.
mentioned a couple of guys from the CBS Sunday show were being let go, and Matt Ryan was being brought in,
Yeah.
and we weren't sure. I think they were basically told, you're done on this show. After 20 years, I think both of them were like 20 years. Phil Simms and I forget the other guy, Chris. No, uh, Phil Simms and I forget who the other
It's
guy
Phil
was.
Simms, and it was Boomer Esiason.
Boomer Esiason. Yes, I mean they've been there forever. They're such staples of that show, and all of a sudden they're out of a job. But oh well. But yeah, a lot of shakeups everywhere.
Speaking of shakeups,
Barry Sanders says he is discontinuing his relationship with EA Sports Madden video game. And I read the little article, the little blurb, and it didn't say why. It didn't mention why he was not, going to lend his name to the game anymore. I couldn't understand
this is the
why.
same man, Randy, that you also didn't get an answer from about why he retired from the Detroit Lions.
That's
So,
true. That's true. That's very true. Yeah, that whole show that was supposed to answer the question, why did Barry retire so suddenly, he still didn't give an answer.
so it seems very on brand for Barry. Look, I'm sure there's some issues behind the scenes. Like there's a whole thing McAfee's show talked about it, about how Marvin Harrison Jr. hasn't signed his NFLPA standard contract, or he won't sign an EA Sports thing because of some deal that players were signing in college. They had like a lot of sophomores sign this one deal that uh, I forget. There's a lot to that story, but like, so he's somebody else who's been holding out of the Madden video game, essentially, is Marvin Harrison Jr. So there's something going on with, I'm sure, money talks and all that, and Barry. I think they've always used Barry in the video game
He's been
because,
on the cover a few times.
well, he's been on the cover, but he also, in the you don't play the game, so like, and there's a gameplay where you can play as some of the legends. You can get the legends in the game, and obviously Barry's one of the people you play
Sure.
or use.
Sure.
Not to have him in the game now, I mean, that's a big deal. Maybe it's a move. Maybe it's for fans to go, hey, we want Barry back in the game. Pay him money. Who knows?
Yeah, we don't know. Odell Beckham Jr., who is now 31 years old, signs a 1-year deal with the Miami Dolphins that could be worth up to $8.25 million with all of the incentives that they've loaded it with. I think it's like a $3 million contract for 1 year without all the incentives. But this is his 5th NFL team. Any thoughts on Odell signing with another team for 1 year to try and make a boatload of money and then find somebody else next year that'll pay him more?
I'll be honest, when I first heard this, I said, what a dumb signing. And my thought behind it initially was, I was like, Odell hasn't done anything the last few years, and he's still making all this. He went to Baltimore last year. He had a couple good plays. Don't get me wrong. Maybe he was still a little banged up, but he didn't do anything. And I was like, great, another team that's got already loaded at wide receiver. You got Tyreek Hill there. Now you're going to add Odell Beckham Jr. to a diva. I'm not calling Tyreek a diva, but one of those wide receiver rooms where you got all that talent that I'm sure is going to butt heads a little bit, but maybe they won't. Then I thought about it. I was like, you know what? If Odell's healthy, he can still perform, and he might be pretty dangerous. So I can see why you would pay him that. But I just think it's too much of a risk. He hasn't been a factor for a couple years. Even with the Rams going to that Super Bowl with Odell, he didn't amount to nothing with them. So
yeah, he got hurt in the first half of that game.
Yeah, I mean, but when he's healthy, yeah, he's good. But I don't know. Ever since he left New York, he hasn't been the same Odell to me. Even in Cleveland, he had flashes, but he wasn't that same Odell that I was not scared of. But I was just like, I don't know. He's not as big of a threat as he used to be. And he's not untalented, don't get me wrong. I just, fit-wise and ego-wise, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to work in Miami. But the upside is there. I'll give you that. There's a lot of upside being across from Tyreek Hill, who's already going to get, players covering him all the time, which might open it up for Odell. So we'll see.
Yeah. Let's see. The New England Patriots released former CFL quarterback Nathan Rourke. Boy, we remember him up in the CFL. He was with the BC Lions in 2021 and 2022. He was phenomenal up there, and
pretty much sat on the bench in Jacksonville last year, and then he bounced over to New England, and
now New England's got him. And I was reading something today that it's a bad time for him to try and latch on with a CFL team because every team's got like 4 quarterbacks on their roster right now, so nobody has any room for him.
Oh, come on.
But when he was up there, he was fantastic. He was one of the hot young players, in the Canadian Football League, and there were a couple at the time. A couple of teams had, really young, fresh new starters that were turning a lot of heads because they were playing so well.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see if he keeps going. If you can latch onto an NFL team, even as a backup, I mean, there's good money and a good lifestyle in that. But if he wants to play, I mean, I'm sure Canada, there'd be a team that would welcome him back.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
we'll have to keep an eye out. I was disappointed to see that they cut him. I was partially hoping, like, maybe Detroit could sign him as a backup to Hendon Hooker and Jared Goff, but we'll see.
Do we need to talk any more about the roast of Tom Brady?
Nah, I think we're good.
But like I said, I might check it out a little bit if I can find it somewhere. I didn't even see it.
It's on Netflix.
I didn't see a whole lot of like YouTube highlights.
I've seen it all over X and Twitter.
A few on social media, a few things here and there, but nothing that I really cared about. But yeah, the more I think about it, the more I'd love to see Tom Brady get verbally abused for about an hour or so. All right, let's move on to some CFL news then. The CFL Draft took place last Tuesday night. The Elks had the number 1 pick, and they selected linebacker Joel Dublanco from University of Cincinnati. In the 5th round, and these are just some highlights from the 8 rounds. In the 5th round, Winnipeg selected offensive lineman Giovanni Manu from the University of British Columbia.
Now, why does that name sound very familiar?
Because we were there when the Lions picked him.
Oh, yeah.
They took him in the 4th round. So I guess they're just hedging their bets so that if he doesn't work out in the NFL, they've got his CFL rights, which makes sense. Let's see. In the sixth round, Montreal selected running back Michael Herzog from Hillsdale College, which I think is a Division III school here in the
Oh.
state of Michigan. In the eighth round, the Elks selected defensive lineman Jacob Spencer from Saginaw Valley State University here in Michigan. That's where the Lions used to have their training camp at one time.
A little bit of breaking news, real quick.
Oh,
The Giants have claimed ex-Patriots quarterback Nathan Rourke off waivers. So
really?
perfect timing.
Okay.
Literally 1 minute ago.
Good for Nathan.
See, it wasn't very long before he got picked up by somebody.
Let's see. A total of 74 players were selected over 8 rounds of the CFL draft. Also, the CFL Global Draft was conducted that same night. 2 rounds and 18 more players were selected by each of the teams. The Elks again had the first overall pick in the Global Draft, and they selected linebacker Eteva Magua Clements from Nebraska, who was originally from American Samoa. That's
Hmm.
why he was on the global list. And let's see, players from 9 different countries: uh, Australia, Germany, Austria, the United Kingdom, New Zealand, South Africa, the Bahamas, Samoa, and American Samoa were picked. I didn't know there was a difference between Samoa and American Samoa.
Yes, there is.
Okay,
Yep.
I assumed there was, but I just thought it was all the same thing. Let's see, in the draft there was I think this is the global draft. There were 6 punters selected, 1 kicker, 2 tight ends, 3 linebackers, 1 defensive back, 4 defensive linemen, and 1 offensive lineman. Uh, most have been players in U.S. colleges, but 2 of them came from the European Football League in the form of the Cologne Centurions and the Tyrol Raiders. So yeah, mostly American college kids and a couple of players from Europe. The Canadian Football Hall of Fame class of 2024 was announced the other day. 3 wide receivers are going in: Weston Dressler, S.J. Green, and Chad Owens. No, not that Chad Owens that you're familiar with. Cornerback Marvin Coleman, defensive end Vince Goldsmith were all selected in the player category. In the builder category, coaching legend Ray Yawk, who was one of the I'm sorry, and one of Canada's greatest proponents of touch football, Ed Laverty, who will be inducted posthumously up in Canada. So that's your, I think 7 altogether. Yeah, 7. 5 players and two. I sent you a graphic on
Yep.
that. But yeah, that's the class of 2024. They didn't announce when the Hall of Fame game was going to be, but it's always in Hamilton, like in September, um, second, third week of the season or something like. No, it's got to be later than that. But yeah, it's usually in September.
All right.
So when we get the date, we'll let you know. All right, and some college news, or should I say, Gridiron Grave news. You said you hadn't heard this story.
I had not heard this.
Uh, Legendary Notre Dame coach Knute Rockne's body has been moved. Uh, the first Gridiron Grave I ever visited back in 2006 was that of Knute Rockne. I remember taking you and the boys there to go visit his grave. And he was buried in the Highland Cemetery on the west side of South Bend after he died in a plane crash in 1931. And I always wondered, why was he buried so far away? This is way on the west side of South Bend, away from the college. I always wondered why he wasn't buried on the campus of Notre Dame. There is a cemetery there, but I never knew why until um, I was watching a local Channel 16 out of South Bend clip where a historian said that at the time, the cemetery on the grounds at Notre Dame did not have regular maintenance. It wasn't kept up very well. So his wife, Knute Rockne's wife, decided to have him buried at Highland Cemetery across town, where they did have groundskeepers and they kept things all nice and everything. So that's why he was there. Um, but on this past Sunday, April 28th, his body, as well as that of his wife Bonnie, his son William, and his grandson Timothy, were quietly moved by his family to the Cedar Grove Cemetery on the campus of Notre Dame. This is the same cemetery where 1949 Heisman Trophy winner Leon Hart from Notre Dame and the Detroit Lions is buried, as well as Notre Dame coach Ara Parsegian. They're also buried there. So he's finally on campus. They didn't make a big deal out of this until after it had already happened.
Hmm.
So the news reporter was there for the whole thing, but she was not allowed to, she didn't put anything out in the news until after it was already done.
Hmm.
And now they're not sure if they're going to use the headstones from the other cemetery or if they're going to come up with new headstones for Knute Rockne and his wife and all the rest of them. So right now there's just like a plot of grass that has no name on it
Hmm.
from what I could see. And I posted on our YouTube and Facebook feed, posted the Channel 16 piece on that. So that was very, very interesting and just a shock that 91 years after he dies, he's being moved from one cemetery to another.
And how disappointed are you that they didn't contact you, the essentially the professor of Gridiron Graves here, or have Grave Will Travel here on our YouTube channel?
Well, and now when I find out if he's got a new headstone or even the old one, I'm going to make another trip down there
Oh, there we
to
go.
revisit the same person in a different cemetery. How odd is that?
Just save, hey, just save some clicks for the rest of the people on YouTube, Randy. Okay.
Let's see. In our last story, Jim Thorpe and 18 others were awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in a cemetery in a ceremony.
You got,
I got
you got
cemetery
cemeteries
on
on
the
the
brain.
brain.
In a ceremony at the White House last Friday. The award was presented to members of his family who were there in attendance. I thought it was a nice gesture, but uh, I don't know. I I don't know if I agree with it or not. I mean, the man's been dead since the 50s, and yet they're giving him a Presidential Medal of Freedom award. I don't know. It strikes me as pretty odd. But anyway, other recipients that night included Michelle Yeoh, the actress, former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, former Vice President Al Gore, and former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg.
Hold on. Included actress Michelle Yeoh. How dare you, sir? That's Oscar-winning actress Michelle Yeoh. You're gonna say it, you say it right. It's like if you don't say Sir Paul McCartney, all right? They got the knighthood.
Or
You got to
Matthew
put it,
Freaking Stafford,
or
Super
that.
Bowl champion Matthew
There you
Freaking
go, or
Stafford.
that. I mean, Michelle Yeoh
I
won
love
her
Michelle
Oscar.
Yeoh.
She's great.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was one of the best movies ever.
Everything, Everywhere, All at Once was an
Yes,
incredible
she's done
performance.
so many good
She's
things.
incredible.
Yes.
If she wants to come on the podcast, she can. I don't know how big of a football fan she is, but I mean, you can't introduce her just as actress. I mean, way to go, Randy. You're just botching our shot right there.
Yeah. Okay. Oscar-winning actress.
And you didn't
Michelle
just
Yeoh.
say, former politician Al Gore. Nope, you said former vice president.
Well, I was going to say,
former mayor.
Al Gore, the man who claimed to have invented the internet.
Former Speaker of the House, Nancy. Come on, you did all that, but you wouldn't give Michelle Yeoh the time of day. Way to go, you jerk.
All right, moving on to this today's birthdays. May 7th, quarterback Johnny Unitas, born on this date in 1933, passed away in 2002 at the age of 69, played his college football at Louisville, and was selected in the ninth round of the 1955 NFL Draft by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Never played for the Steelers, but he played 18 seasons in the NFL, mainly with the Baltimore Colts from 1956 to 1972, won 3 NFL titles and Super Bowl V. He lost in Super Bowl III to the Jets. He won the 1958 and 59 titles. The 58 game, known as the greatest game ever played. Um, First one ever televised live on television, and overtime game too. He played his final season with the San Diego Chargers, and in 1960, and then was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1979. And another birthday today, quarterback Alex Smith turns 40 years old today. He was the first overall pick in the 2005 NFL Draft by the San Francisco 49ers, and he played 14 NFL seasons. He was with the 49ers from 2005 to 2012, but he missed the 2008 season due to an injury. He was with the Kansas City Chiefs from 2013 to 2017, and he finished his playing career with the first the Redskins and then the Washington football team in 2018 and 2020. And wasn't 2019 the year that he was injured because of
Oh yeah, he had the scary injury exactly where Joe Theismann, Thiesman.
They said he missed the
hurt.
season due to an infection, but anybody that's seen the
Well, it was that, and then it wasn't infected. because they did surgery on it and
Right.
it got infected.
Long rehab.
They thought he'd have to lose the leg at one point. It was a
Right.
scary recovery.
Yep. He did come back.
But he came back. It was an incredible story. One of the best football stories. I remember when that was happening. We covered that.
They'll probably make a movie out of it someday.
They might. There's definitely a lot of good, it's either an ESPN or like an NFL Network piece has been done about it. So good for him. I think that, I just saw it not too long ago.
Wasn't it like 60 Minutes?
Maybe something
I
like
think
that.
I think it was 60 Minutes that did a piece on him. But
So-
anyway, that was really good.
Yeah.
All right, obituaries. We do have one today. This is where we take a moment and honor those who've made the world of football a better place. Quarterback Bob Avellini, who played 9 seasons in the NFL, has passed away of cancer at the age of 70. Oh, I remember Bob Avellini. Wow. Avellini played his college football at Maryland and was selected in the 6th round of the 1975 NFL Draft by the Chicago Bears. His teammate, Walter Payton, was also selected in the same draft. Avellini played his entire career with the Bears from 1975 to 1984. He led the team to one playoff appearance in 1977, a 37-7 loss to the Dallas Cowboys. But yeah, Bob Avellini for so many years was the quarterback of the Bears, and he was good. I mean, yeah, they weren't, winning playoff games or doing anything like that, but man, he was just a solid quarterback.
Still couldn't throw for over 4,000 yards, where the Bears have never been able to do.
But all he had to do was hand off to Walter Payton.
I mean, that makes your job real easy, don't it?
That's right. All right, upcoming events calendar. We are scheduled, as of today, to go to the Minnesota Myth Wichita Regulators AFL game.
Oh, boy.
On the 18th, a week from this Saturday.
So if that falls through, are we just still going to Minnesota and just enjoying the Mall of America?
We're spend 2 days at the Mall of America, eating Coney dogs or whatever they got there, and riding the rides and seeing the aquarium.
I'm going to have to propose. If that falls through, then we will have to still get our arena football fix and go to that Nashville Cats game. I want to say that June weekend that we were talking about, that I already have off too. So.
Yep.
Man, I hope this works out.
I'm thinking the same thing.
As disappointed as I am in those nets.
Oh, yeah, that's awful.
Do you think we'll get a Lee Hutton sighting there?
I don't know.
You're going to have to talk to your inside source there at the Minnesota Myth.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I'd be curious to talk to them.
Yep.
So.
Let's see. May 24th, the European League of Football season begins. June 6th, the CFL regular season begins.
Yeah, they got preseason games coming up this month.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Before the end of May, we got some preseason.
I'm sure Randy will figure out a way to stuff preseason games up our, up in our ears this month.
Maybe. Let's see. June 30th, the Arena Football League regular season comes to an end, at least on the calendar.
Why are you skipping over the other thing there?
Oh, June 25th?
Yeah.
Our 350th episode?
Yeah, you got to do a little self-promotion here. We got 7 episodes to go.
Yeah.
Our 350th episode spectacular, featuring the two of us, as well as...
Don't oversell it. They may be sorely disappointed when
featuring the great, mysterious Aaron Snow and the mysterious big hat-wearing, chain-wearing, paper bag-wearing Kyle Sutherland from Just Lying Around will also pop on.
Yep.
We got to have a big old show there, and I'm very curious to hear Kyle's thoughts on the Arena Football League. I'm going to tell you what they are right now. I don't know.
Don't know.
I don't know.
Let's see. August 1st, the Pro Football Hall of Fame game in Canton featuring the Chicago Bears and the Houston Texans. August 3rd, the 2024 Hall of Fame enshrinement ceremonies will be taking place. August 24th, week 0 in college football. September 5th, the NFL regular season begins. That's a Thursday night. And the very next night, it's the Eagles and Packers in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
This is all going to be coming up on us in no time.
Yeah, before you know it, man, this whole calendar is going to be down to nothing.
My lease is up at the end of August,
and
I'll be moving again.
Don't ask me for help. The last one almost killed me.
I'm going to ask you for help.
Oh my God!
You got to at least help me carry.
You kept telling me you had a ground floor apartment, but you didn't tell me that you had to go up 3 steps and then down 8 steps to get to it.
Hey, it is what it is.
That's a subterranean apartment.
Well,
and it damn near killed me.
Well,
those steps, man.
I know. Well, I'll get it figured out. But by the time this next season, the college football season starts up and the NFL season starts up, I'll be in a whole. That's blowing my mind also right now. I'm like, I'm going to be living in a whole different space, and that's going to be coming up in a couple months.
Yeah,
it's kind of scary to think about. Like it's so close.
Yeah.
So
all right, that's all the news from around the world of football this week. Anything else besides Nathan Rourke being picked up by the Giants?
I guess we could talk about this for a hot second. Kyle brought this up to me when we were talking today, that the Lions signed safety C.J. Moore If that name sounds familiar, he was one of the players that was suspended last season as part of that gambling uh,
Yes.
sting that happened. So he was cleared of the suspension earlier this month, and it sounds like the Lions have signed him to, I think, a 1-year deal or something.
Wow.
So,
I had not heard that.
yep, so that happened today.
Okay.
Yep, on top of the Nathan Rourke news, that should be all of our big stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in that case, that's all the time we've got for this week. If you learned something during this podcast about the incredible amount of diversity that exists in the world of football, then we have done our job. Visit our website at theworldoffootball.com for news, links, upcoming events, original articles, videos, and more. Our email address is info@theworldoffootball.com.
You can follow the World of Football on Facebook, X, and Instagram, where the address for all three of those is TWOF Kalamazoo. New episodes of this podcast are posted on Tuesdays and are available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music, so you can simply ask your Alexa device to play the World of Football podcast to hear us on whatever Alexa devices you may have. You can also find the full audio version of this very show on our YouTube page. Just enter the World of Football Kalamazoo or use the handle at the World of Football in the YouTube search bar to find us. So please spread the word, subscribe, rate, review, all that junk. Leave comments. Let us know what you think. And please come be a part of the football conversation. And as we mentioned earlier, week 2 of the Arena Football League season, I'll have a video up tonight or tomorrow. Let's do podcast up Tuesday. So we'll see.
Over 1,000 views on the last one.
Yep, 1.8 last I checked.
Wow, almost 2,000.
Oh, very good, solid start for us. I mean, our arena videos usually tend to go in that direction.
Anything with arena football, we get lots.
It's been exacerbated because of the whole drama. I think everybody's looking for any little bit, And I tried really hard to avoid any clickbaity thumbnails.
Right.
There's a lot out there. You might get one tonight. It might be a little clickbaity looking.
Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts.
And you know me. You watched my show last week, I assume.
Oh yeah.
All I did was present facts,
right?
Maybe a little bit of opinion,
right?
But it was more just observations from that first week. And here we are in week 2. There's going to be more of that stuff we talked about tonight. Probably a couple more things I didn't bring up. So should be another fun show.
Okay.
Fun in quotes because, man, I do regret not doing like a UFL by week instead of AFL.
Yeah. All right. And remember, folks, some people may love football more than we do. But nobody, and I mean nobody, loves more football than the two of us guys sitting right here in Kalamazoo. Until next time, when we'll try and do a better job. Yeah, right. I'm Randy Snow.
And I'm Adam Snow. And if you want to be a part of the roast of Randy Snow, just leave your comments down in the comment section below and let us know if we should do one. He does have a birthday coming up, everybody. I'm just saying.
I don't need a roast.
You need a big roast.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
I'm no Tom Brady.
Ain't that the truth?
See you all next week.